6 o'clock. Roxanne, if you'll please take roll. And if we'll please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. And we've got a flag back here.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Has council had time to review the agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
Second that. There's a motion and a second. All those in favor, please show a voting sign. Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Public comments. Persons wishing to address the council may, regarding items, as that agenda item is called. Persons who wish to address the council regarding items not on the agenda that are under the jurisdiction of the city council may do so at this time when called upon by the mayor. Comments on personnel matters and matters pending in the courts or others with outside tribunals are not permitted. Speakers are limited to 3 minutes. Any presentation is for public information purposes only. No action will be taken. Any public speakers? Okay. Consent agenda. Council had time to look at the consent agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
There is a motion and a second pending. Any questions? Does anyone have them? Good. All those in favor, please show a voting sign. Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. New business. Item A, dangerous, unsafe structure removal bids. Mr. Hutton.
Good evening. On January 8th, I came before the council concerning 3 houses on the condemned list. 3 West Neosho, 322 South Street, and 426 North 3rd. Set up hearing dates for February 26th. At that hearing date, there was no one came forward to speak for 322 South Street or 426 North 3rd. There was somebody, or on those 2 houses, the council went ahead and voted to condemn them. The 3 West Neosho, there was a gentleman here representing the owner of that house. The council gave them 90 days to make needed corrections to the house. Those corrections were not made. On May 29th, came back to the council voted to condemn that house also. Also, there was a house at 124 West Bruner, which has been deeded over to the city. And this house is in poor condition and it needs demolished also. We collected bids from outside. It was posted in the local paper in the register 3 times. I also sent out 6 packets to individual contractors, 3 local, 3 non-local. 1 was from Lawrence, 1 from Spring Hill, and 1 from Eddyville, Nebraska. We only got 2 bids back in. As you see on the agenda, the 2 bids were from Infinity Land Management, which is out of Spring Hill, and Raised Metal Depot. The individual costs are on the agenda. I can go through each one of them if you'd like. The main thing is the total. The low bid you can see is from Raised Metal Depot of $11,850. The out-of-town person, the only thing I can answer for that would be way higher is that they're out of town. They're paying higher landfill prices. They're bringing in more equipment, more people. With that being said, I've just come to the council to ask for their approval to go ahead and accept the bid from Raised Metal Depot and move forward with condemning or demolishing the 4 houses.
When will this demolishing start?
As soon as he can get to it, as soon as he can get in my office and sign the contracts. The contracts are written to where it gives them 15 days to get the house torn down.
Per house or all?
Per house.
Okay.
Now, if he comes in and signs all the contracts on the same day, I don't expect him to get all 4 houses done in the same 2-week time period. So I work with the contractors. It's never been an issue, but it is covered in the contract. He's probably going to start with one house, and as soon as he gets done, he's got his equipment in town, he moves right over to the next house.
That include the one on the Iola Street?
Yes, sir.
I'd make a motion to approve the bid submitted by Ray's Metal Depot for the total project cost of $11,850 and proceed to demolish the structures and clear the properties based on section 8-501 of the Unified Development Code.
Second that motion.
There's a,
I do have a question. How much do we have budgeted each year to demolish?
We put $15,000 in the budget, again, at this time, knowing this ahead of time, if I'd had another house, but you never know what the bids are going to come in. I honestly thought the bids were going to be about $14,000 to $15,000.
Okay.
So,
there is a motion and a second to approve the bid from Ray's Metal Depot for $11,850 to demolish 4 homes. All those in favor, please show a voting sign. Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Thank you. Item B, standard traffic ordinance and the Uniform Public Code of Offense. Chief, you want to go?
Basically, we have 2 ordinances before council tonight, one for the standard traffic ordinance and one for the Uniform Public Defense Code. We'll need separate motions for the approval of each ordinance. It's something that we do typically every year, and we just adopted as by reference into our code, something that the league produces. We modify it just to fit our codes, our laws in town. Otherwise, I would turn over to Chief for specifics if there's any specific questions.
I would make a motion that we adopt ordinance 3483, the standard traffic ordinance.
I got a question for Chief. What is a micro utility truck? Is that one like Strickler's got that
Yes, sir.
they run around?
Yes.
Okay, as far as meeting the statutes, would that be the same as the golf carts have to meet the standards with lights and all that stuff?
No, there is a little bit of a difference in what they require on there. On the golf carts, I have my STO here with me if you want to read through those. They do have different requirements on there. Like the golf cart needs the slow-moving hazard triangle on the back of it, on the rear of it. It doesn't require tail lights or anything of that such. The micro utility trucks is pretty much the same as an automobile, the same as the low-speed vehicles, which are classified as a regular automobile. They have a VIN number. And our worksite utility vehicles, we have the requirements of having windshield wipers, all those additional requirements on those. But the golf carts do not.
So on those micro vehicles, they could be tagged and insured just like a car if they had all the requirements on them.
Yes, and they can ride on the streets here within Iola. They just cannot, they can cross a state or a federal highway. They cannot ride along the highway.
Okay. That's what I was wondering.
Yeah, they're just legal to cross the highway. And that goes for our golf carts, our the low-speed vehicles, worksite utility vehicles.
Okay, that's what I was wondering. Thank you.
I have a motion to approve ordinance 3483. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
There's a motion to approve ordinance 3483 and a second. All those in favor, please show a voting sign. Opposed, same sign. And I'm really glad we got 5 votes on that. Okay, we have one more ordinance that we need to approve here. And that is, if anyone wants to ask questions about 3484, the Public Offense Code. Do you have questions about that?
I would make a motion to approve ordinance 3484, the Uniform Public Offense Code.
I'll second the motion.
There is a motion and a second to approve ordinance 3484. All those in favor, please show a voting sign. Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Thank you. Public hearing.
Yes, in preparation for formally setting the 2019 budget, we have to hold a public hearing, and 10 days prior to that hearing, we must publish the state budget, or the state forms for the budget in the paper. So basically, we're just asking council to formally set that hearing for August 13th at 6 p.m. at the Park Community Building. At that time, we'll have a public hearing and then seek approval for the budget at that time.
I would make a motion that we set a public budget hearing for the proposed 2019 budget at the next regular city council meeting on Monday, August 13th, 2018, at 6 p.m. at the Park Community Building, Riverside Park.
There is a motion and a second to set a public hearing on Monday, August 13th, 2018 at 6 p.m. at the Park Community Building, Riverside Park. It has been seconded. All those in favor, please show a voting sign. Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Employee vacation days.
Council, as part of the normal employee appreciation picnic, we often have different prizes for the staff to kind of register for and get drawn for as kind of door prizes. And typically in the last several years, we've asked for 5 vacation days to be utilized to giveaways for them. So just seeking approval to do so.
Make a motion to authorize 5 vacation days for prizes at the annual employee picnic.
There is a motion and a second. All those in favor, please show a voting sign. Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. GIS.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, as we discussed and approved moving forward with the water and wastewater master plans, we knew that we discussed that we were going to need some additional GIS data for the sanitary sewer system, and we had a quote at that time from Midland GIS, and council asked for me to kind of seek some other quotes on that service. And I did talk to Burns & McDonnell. They can provide that service. It was roughly the same cost, but it was not going to collect all the potential attributes for each data point. They weren't going to do an inspection. They were basically going to get rim elevations and inverts, and that was it. So the information wasn't going to be as thorough for basically the same price. I contacted a second company, and they basically said, oh, I would just, we could do it, but I would just have the engineer do it. You're better served to have them do it. So, and a third company, I never did receive a quote as requested from them. So that's why I've got before you the proposal for Midland GIS. Basically, this feeds into the master plan, provides data for the master plan. It also is something that can be utilized by staff. Ultimately, this would be hosted on the web, and it's something that staff can access out in the field. So when they're putting in ideas that we're going to do this for all, we'll get all of our utilities online and update the data for sanitary sewer and electric per this agreement. But that information can be utilized out in the field. So when they're needing to find a water line or work on a water line, they can find the valves out in the field. They don't have to, sometimes we have them come back into the office because Corey's computer is the only one that now hosts that information. And even with that, it does not have an aerial map behind it. So sometimes it's kind of hard to reference where that line is. We know the GPS point, but we don't know where it is in reference to somebody's house or the street or whatever. Additionally, like I said, this information can then be accessed in the field, but it will also incorporate into the work order management system that we've been talking about, that then it tags work being done on an asset that's out in the field. So those two will talk to each other, and we can say that we know that this line had work done on it. With that, also just kind of general information about Midland GIS. They've worked with Burns & Mac before. Burns and Mac knows who they are. They like their data. And I've talked to both Burns and Mac and Midland GIS. They can work with, Midland can get everything done on the sanitary sewer side for the Burns and Mac deadline, so that the master plan isn't really slowed down for them. Any questions about the proposal? Like I said, this includes going ahead and getting some of the electric data going as well, because we don't have a lot of that. And we see getting some of the gas information next year as a separate project. As far as conversations with Burns and Mac, the water side is pretty good right now, so we don't have to worry about it.
How broad of information can you get out of this GIS? Is this just for wastewater record data? Or can it be expanded for like police department to use for vaccines?
Well, one thing that I could see that it would be potentially easy, we would end up having maybe some stuff for code, where you would have a layer that would show empty lots, and you would have a layer that maybe shows some of the abandoned houses or things of that nature. I think, I'm trying to think of some of the other applications I've thought of for that, but that's kind of the next level, but primarily getting started with the utilities, because those are the guys that are out there. Something we may want to do is stormwater utility, which we don't really have a lot of information on that we would maybe want to add to this system as another layer in the future.
So it is expanded?
Yeah. You would just build different layers, and those layers there might be several layers connected to, say, a stormwater layer, that those that need to know stormwater can see and look at, but maybe they wouldn't be able to see all the other layers depending on how you set it up.
Now, when they're collecting this data, it won't affect the traffic flow or anything, will it? Or
Well,
do you know?
I mean, there's going to be manholes that are in the traffic way, but they're usually, I would imagine they're pretty quick about setting up what traffic control they need behind them, getting the data and getting out of the way. It shouldn't be that they're blocking lanes of traffic for a long period of time.
They're basically blocking one little area, one manhole or two manholes, and then moving on. So you're not closing down all of Jefferson or all of Lincoln or
Okay.
something for the day.
I'll make a motion to approve the Midland GIS Solutions LLC professional service agreement for Iola, Kansas, and also authorize the necessary signatures.
I'll second the motion.
There is a motion and a second to approve the Midland GIS Solutions contract and authorize the signatures. All those in favor, please show a voting sign. Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Round table.
Lowers 4 tables.
Sid, what do you got for us?
Yes, you all should have another kind of bundle of information that contains 3 items. It's basically a kind of a little narrative for tonight. The overview of the general fund with a third page that has some proposed changes from the original proposed general fund, and then the final kind of document is rate adjustment scenarios for the water utility. And I can pull stuff up on my computer. We don't have Wi-Fi here, so I need to use my phone as a hotspot. So if we need that, it may take just a little bit. But just a reminder that the personnel services that's included in all the budget that we've seen includes the regular merit raises and a 2% COLA. I did go back and include the GIS information into each of those utilities. Remember, those utilities were in good shape this year. That didn't really impact them. And I also added the work order maintenance, the annual subscription for that, into the utilities and the general fund, splitting it the 5 ways. So I guess we can kind of concentrate on the general fund. You have an overview sheet. If you remember that when we proposed this last Tuesday, we had about a $208,000, it was predicting about $208,000 of reserve spending. And at the time, we kind of were thinking that the state was going to push us to spend down some of the reserve that we have. We did verify that there is a way that we can save as much reserve as we want. So that is an option. What I've done here is try to preserve as much reserve as possible and also eliminate the general fund transfer from the water utility so that that's in here. With all that being said, I went back to the 2019 proposed budget. We've cut basically $120,000 out of that original proposal. All that is reflected on that final sheet behind. Some of them are stapled, some of them are not. You have revenue, page 1, page 2 with the overview of the expenditures, and then there's a final page that has the cuts. And also some additions that involved what we were talking about with the printer and copier for the clerks in the admin office. Now, all these cuts are proposed cuts. Those are things that staff doesn't necessarily, don't come highly recommended from staff, but we know that we needed to provide cuts. One of those included, I know that's the hot topic of mosquito spraying. We cut that. Part of the reason why we did that is that's a pretty easily encapsulated program that if we stop doing that, we know pretty much how much we can save. We're going to save the costs of the chemical, and we're going to save overtime on that. We also included reducing the contribution from each department to the employee benefit fund. We were trying to do $1,000 per employee, which was kind of like planning to save for future retirement. So when we had major payouts, we didn't have to hit the general fund or whatever fund it was with those expenses. We backed that off next year to half, so $500 per employee. There's several kind of little minor cuts, what I would say, but they're outlined in there. A couple of the other ones, equipment reserve, we had some money in code to replace a pickup in the future. That was totally removed. PD was putting some money back. We typically buy a car every year, but we were trying to maybe put some money back so that year that we had to buy 2, we already had the second car saved for. We took that out. Fire had some money in equipment.
Sorry to interrupt. When's the last time PD's actually gotten their second car in the same year?
We had to buy 2 because we didn't get one.
Right.
Last year we bought 2 because we had.
But it rolled over from the year before.
This year we are scheduled for 2.
Okay.
So 2 would be back in what, 3 years, maybe 4?
Yes.
Okay. So I was making sure that this wasn't next year they're scheduled, because I know for years we kicked that second car down the road.
Yeah, but I'd like to see something else happen besides getting rid of mosquito spraying. The mosquitoes are so terrible. You can't go outside if it's not sprayed, and I think that that's not the thing to cut. There are probably other places that stuff can be cut, just like this $3,500 that you want to put into this employee assistance program that probably nobody's going to use. The employees would probably rather have you put that into their health savings than into that, because it's probably not going to get used. So I don't agree with cutting mosquito spraying. Everybody will regret that terribly.
I agree with her because I noticed this morning on the news, we were in a moderate risk for West Nile virus here.
And there's Zika virus, and there's all kinds of other viruses, and if we can at least help prevent some of that in some small way, that to me does more for the community than,
We need to find somewhere else.
yeah.
Well, where are you gonna come up with $15,000?
Well, I don't know, but I mean, there's
additional cuts?
probably there's probably employees that could be cut, that, you know, some jobs could be overlapped or combined, could be some cross-training done. I mean, I know that there's things that can be done without getting rid of something that benefits the entire community.
So, I mean, the employee thing is something that we talked about in the second half of the budget. And I think this is, the mosquito thing is something in addition to that. I don't know that we necessarily know that it's really doing a whole lot.
Well, I do. If you've been to other communities where they don't spray, I can guarantee you would notice a difference.
I did a little bit of research, not a lot. I looked into it a little bit. There's nothing that jumped out at me that,
Unless we're gonna put up a bunch of bat houses around town so that we've got bats flying around to eat the mosquitoes. I mean,
How about, okay,
the purple martins, if we can get enough purple martins in town to eat the mosquitoes.
Nancy, would you like to make it a motion to restore that funding?
Yes, I would.
Well, can we, I guess my thought is we can just, let's get
Well,
through,
the-
we'll just have general
Okay,
consensus of.
well, I was trying to get us to a consensus. I know, so it feels like you and Mark would like this funding restored, or at least not cut.
I don't want it cut.
Don't want it cut, sorry.
No.
Yeah. Can I get a general feeling out of Mike here that he's willing to cut this, is that correct? Eugene, I get that feeling out of you
Yeah,
as
because
well.
I don't know where,
I would go ahead and cut it.
I mean, we were talking about putting $50,000 in sidewalk fund that is never used.
But understand that that is a different fund, and that money is the sales tax money that goes to the capital projects fund. So it's not general fund money that we're adding, that we're taking money from the general fund. In fact, we moved, part of the reason why that's in the capital projects fund is because we moved it out of the general fund a couple of years ago.
Right, well, it's been probably 4 or 5 years ago that we moved it.
I just don't think it's a smart decision to get rid of mosquito spraying. So I guess whatever, when everybody has West Nile or Zika, you know, it is what it is.
well, Nancy, can you come back with $15,000 worth?
I don't know, Gene,
Next
and
month.
you wanted the 10% cut overall. So, you know,
I mean, these are the tough decisions we have to make, because I feel as a council, we didn't do our job in improving the water rates. I mean, so these are the kind of cuts we're gonna have to make. I mean, I would love to see the spraying stay, but that's one
but
of those things
whether we
that's
do
going to
this
have
or
to
not,
go.
they're still talking raising the water rates, so that doesn't
But
solve that problem
it's gonna have to
either.
happen at some point. I'm just saying,
But that doesn't
we
solve
failed
that
as a
problem
council.
either.
I guess the difference is right now, we have an $80,000 deficit versus a $280,000 deficit. And that's only sustainable for another year.
And understand too, the cuts that we made what we're proposing here, that's on top of making about $200,000+ worth of cuts last year, because the original proposed budget was about $430,000 short. We cut about a little over $200,000, and then the other was made up with mill levy adjustment. So now we're cutting another $100,000 from a budget that showed. So I just, that's kind of where we're at staff-wise. I think staffing, we've talked about that, we've talked about equipment reserve. Those are all things, but I think we were gonna try to get the budget going and done, and then work on those conversations afterwards. Is that correct? I mean, that's kind of, was the assumption I was making.
And actually, it's not 15, it's 20,000 by the time you put in the overtime for the guy to drive the truck around.
Why does
Yeah.
that have to be overtime though? Why couldn't that be part of that guy's daily time, and instead of working 8 hours during the day, part of his 8 hours is that spraying time, so that it's not overtime. It doesn't have to be overtime.
I've wondered the same thing too on that, Nancy. You know, if we're paying them overtime
So, I
to
mean,
drive the truck, or if that's part of their
that
daily
doesn't,
work.
that doesn't
schedule.
have to be overtime.
So,
It's a strictly on-call person that does it, and, I mean, right now you couldn't do it. I mean, middle of summers when they're doing the projects like patching and chip seal, they gotta have everybody plus their temporary people that's gonna shut down.
but, and I don't know, do they, because you have, I mean, I don't know if during the heat of the day, you're less likely to have as many mosquitoes as towards the evening hours. I don't know that. And that may be why it's always been done in the evenings.
I'm just saying, I think it's a silly thing to cut, but obviously it doesn't matter what I say, so let's just move on.
Well, yes, your opinion does matter. That's what we're here as a council, to work together and come up with the best solution that we possibly can.
No. I just don't think it's a good idea.
Is there any way we can contact with the clerk, this new company, that could get a chemical from, and see if they have any data on, I'm sure they've done studies on
Right.
You may want to also contact KDHE, or Kansas Parks or something, can't contact both the company that's done it and let's contact KDHE and see Kansas Department of Health, and see what they know about it too. I'm sure they've,
The chemical company is going to say that, yes, it's very effective, and if you still.
somebody out there has to
Yeah.
have data on it.
I mean, go to Pittsburgh and step outside, they don't spray there. And see what you have inside there.
I'm just concerned with
It's a
the,
lot of mosquito bites.
we're down in West Nile, risk of areas.
Yeah. And that's what I say, and all of those things keep moving this way. So it just keeps getting worse, it doesn't get better.
But we can contact them and.
And is this are the street and alley personnel trained to use this stuff?
Yeah, they go, have to go up to Kansas City or up in that area and calibrate that machine annually, and they get some training. We usually rotate the guys, so everybody, every second or third year is retrained on it.
Sid, what else you got for us?
Well, as far as the general fund, is there, like I said, there was some money put back for fire in equipment reserve. That's been taken out too. I think that's something that, as a long-term plan of equipment replacement there, I hate to not put $10,000 back, but honestly, when you're looking at multiple millions of dollars of replacement in that department, $10,000 isn't going to amount to a whole lot. And then we also reduced both street and alley and parks equipment reserve by 5%, a 5% reduction. Other than that, that's kind of the highlights of what we changed on the general fund. And as it says in the narrative, these changes plus taking out the transfer from the water fund, now the what I would say reserve spending would be about $287,000.
So basically, the narrative then for next year is we either have to find $280,000 worth of general fund cuts, or start getting that water fund healthy, and start making the $200,000.
Well, and what's budgeted in there is to have the general fund or that water transfer back in 2020. It's budgeted that way in the water fund. We're still probably going to be back here talking about general fund and talking about cuts in the general fund next year too.
I thought we talked about cutting the chamber and Thrive's funding. I didn't see that in the,
That was, I think, there again, that was one of those follow-up conversations that I think we were going to have as far as after we got done with the budget, because it felt like we can pass the budget with the potential funding in there. And actually, the chamber funding comes out of convention and tourism. They make that request each year. So it would just be at the time of next year, they wouldn't get that request. And we could we could reallocate what we're gonna do to spend that money.
And I think part of that too, the council wanted to discuss what you would do for economic development before you go saying these two, which are both basically our two economic development agents,
Right.
and saying before you get rid of them, I think the council really needs to have a full conversation
Right.
about what that means, or if you want to move them in-house, or if you want to just, kind of get our options on that table.
Well, I just didn't see it in this 120.
We need to look at raising that vent tax up too, where we're bringing in more money, and then maybe instead of funding so many other things with that, maybe that's what needs to go back to our own Parks and Rec, to fund our own Parks and Rec stuff.
Sid, I seen something.
And you said that's about 15,000 per percent, is that right?
15,000 by percentage point. So we're at 6%. If we moved it to 7, give or take, thinking about $15,000.
I seen something the other day about on the trails, about the state cutting the funding for that. Do you have any input on that or information?
I read that, and I think what you're thinking about is the state's going to stop the permitting fee to the north. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, they was cutting.
Yeah, but they're still going to fund the stuff to the
They're
north.
just gonna cut out the fee.
They're going to cut out the fee though, because no one's going to the north because they can go to the south and ride around and run around all the other trails for free. And it doesn't make a whole lot of sense on their enforcement. You're going to go out there and write some kid a ticket on his bike because he's north of town on the trail.
Exactly.
And what is this?
$3.
For not paying $3 or $10 for the year, and instead that game warden can be out there enforcing poaching or trespassing or all
I
sorts.
wasn't aware that you had to pay to get on the trail.
North of town.
North of town.
North of town?
Pretty sure you do.
Oh, okay, I wasn't aware of that.
So I think they just weren't enforcing it, is what I kind of looked into and read, and it didn't make a whole lot of sense for a $3 permit to write somebody a ticket versus the hours he's going to spend there or she's going to spend there trying to snatch one person on one little portion of that trail. It's 100 miles long.
No, okay, that's, okay. I was just wondering.
I'm thinking they're also wanting to cut it so that way it would have more people start to use it.
It would make a good sitcom to follow that, though.
Any other questions on the general fund? What we'll put in there is as proposed here, and for next meeting. Then if we want to, I just made a note on the gas utility. I did include some money in the CIP for that GIS collection, because that's something we want to do in that fund as well, so that it's in there. I didn't include that budget. It still balances with that additional.
Just because we have kind of a small council here, it is theoretically possible, though, that if these other three said that they want the mosquito spraying, we could merely make an amendment to the budget.
Yeah. Well,
Even if
yeah.
this was passed, you could amend the budget at a later date.
Yes.
If these three
Yes.
said, so they said, these three come back, and that would be 5-3, and said, we want mosquito spraying, you could say pass this budget that's printed, and then, because that mosquito spraying is actually for 2019 summer, is that correct?
Yep.
And so the mosquito spraying continues for this summer, one way or the other.
Yes.
And you can deal with it at that point. Just to kind of inform everybody of that process, I don't want, there are three people that aren't here today, which is a little troublesome a little difficult when we're trying to get this budget passed next week,
Or 3 weeks from now.
3 weeks from now.
Get an extra week this time. Basically, we can go and talk about the employee benefit. We have that EAP. If we want to take that out, we can. We looked at the Blue Cross and Blue Shield does have an option. It's a little more expensive. On some of, it's kind of a combo package where to kind of get the equivalent, you're kind of buying 2 or 3 different things, and only some of it covers all of the family. And the ESI one that we're kind of looking at also includes some HR resources, drug and alcohol workplace items that can be utilized by administration. But if we want to take that out, we can, I mean, that was put in there. And then also we can kind of figure out if we want to put that sidewalk back down to 20,000 in the capital projects fund. And then we'll talk about water last.
So let's start with the council. I'd like to have that discussion then first off about the $3,500 for the supplemental kind of insurance package.
I talked to several different people, different employees, and most of them I got the same answer from is they don't feel like it's anything anybody would use. They'd rather have that money like they used to get money to put into their health savings account that helped them pay their deductibles. When that account had a lot of funding in it, every year each employee got so much money that went into their health savings account that then was there for them to draw out to help pay those expenses until they met their deductible. And of the people that I visited with, most of them would rather see that happen again than these services that they're probably never going to use. So,
That's the same reply I've gotten from a number of employees too. Some of them said that, heck, they didn't even know they had or Blue Cross Blue Shield offered some of these services to begin with.
well,
I
I
think-
mean, and that's not through Blue Cross Blue Shield. This was a whole nother thing. But that's what I'm saying is a lot of them said, you know, it's just not something that they could see themselves ever taking advantage of. And they felt, you know, if you've got extra money, put it in their health savings accounts and give them that money in their health savings account so that it's there for them to help pay for a doctor's visit or pay for an immunization.
But the HSA savings would need to be a lot more than $3,500. That's a big difference money-wise of what we would be putting in
Right,
there
but I mean,
versus.
even if each employee got $50 in there, $50 is gonna help them pay something, help them pay for that doctor's visit, or help them pay for that shot at the health department for their kid. So instead of a service that a lot of them aren't gonna use, I mean, I'd rather give a little bit more and have them have that in that account to where they can actually use it for their medical. Then, I mean, at one point, they used to get a really nice amount of money every year in that health savings account. So, and then that just kind of dwindled when that account lowered after several years worth of very hefty medical incidents and medical bills, and then that account grew back. And since then, I know we've left that account to where it's really a healthy account, and it hasn't been given out like it had been in the past. But I mean, the people that I've talked to said that, you know, they'd rather see that happen again than, you know, or just leave it until there is enough to share back with everybody in a way that everybody can really use the benefit, so.
Mark, Mike, opinions? Trying to draw a consensus here because we're not.
Can you just give it a brief overview with this? I'm not sure I truly understand it, but if it's what I'm thinking is, I might lean with Nancy on this. I'm not sure that it's something that people would be.
It covers all employees and everyone in their household. It provides unlimited phone sessions with a certified counselor. There's training that we can provide for supervisors as part of this. There's employee training. There's unlimited work-life counseling, which includes legal, financial, health, wellness, debt, all kinds of different levels of, if somebody has an issue or a stress in their life that they could potentially seek this service on. They have a little bit of some wellness program resources that can be utilized as well.
Mark, opinions?
I just don't see the need.
Chase?
You're not gonna like my answer. I really have no opinion on it right now. I don't know enough about it. I wasn't able to talk to anybody. feedback that you guys got, sounds like a good idea. If that's the consensus of employees,
Mike?
then why spend the money for it?
Yeah, the whole thing, just from that list there, the thing that I see the most benefit would be the supervisor training. But
We should be able to provide that anyway.
I'm not dead set on spending 3,500 for that. I mean, I'm kind of same spot. Not dead set on yes or no, but probably leaning towards no.
We can remove it.
I think there's a little enough of a consensus there, Sid.
Yep.
Let's talk sidewalks.
Again, you know, the idea behind this is we have, just for example, the Safe Routes to School grant. We're working on some ramps and things to improve around the schools. But we're putting in new ramps and 2 panels down. We have sidewalks that are all unaligned and all over the place. And it'd be nice to be able to have a mechanism to say, you know what, we're going to utilize some of our capital money to just fix that run. That way you have a good stretch of sidewalk. Or there's places where you have good sidewalk, but then you have on either side, but in the middle you have just grass because the sidewalk has been removed and taken out. That was kind of the idea behind being able to start really kind of improving some of the sidewalks and the walkability in the town.
Currently, that fund is only able to be used by citizens, is that correct? The money that's in the sidewalks.
That's typically what we use it for.
We've allowed citizens to, and the citizens basically aren't using that fund.
We actually used it for State Street too, I think.
We use it some on State Street as well whenever we did the big one, okay?
Now, is that a matching fund? Well, like say if I had $2,000 worth of work needed to be done in my house, would the city pay so much and then would the citizen have to pay so much?
It replaces, it pays so much per square foot, and essentially, Gene, what it does, it may be a little light. It used to pay for about the concrete materials, and the individual would end up paying for the labor, essentially. Now, if you did the work yourself, you know, and Greg.
Actually, it pays $1.75 a square foot for sidewalks and $6, I believe it's 25 cents for a linear foot on curbs. Basically, that covers the cost of the concrete. So if you're a homeowner and you want to replace your sidewalk, this sidewalk replacement plan will pay for your concrete. Now, you have to pay for the labor. If you can do the work yourself, you literally could put in a sidewalk and it's going to end up not costing you anything.
And I know, Nancy, you talked about getting grants, and I thought about that a lot for a while, and then I kind of got that we were in a chicken versus an egg situation, the same with the bridge, right? In which we go out and we get these grants, but then we don't have the matching funds because we didn't budget to get the matching funds for the grant. But we go out and we get a grant, but we don't have the funds. Or you put the funds there and then you look for, it's, right, this circular logic, or the circular motion that we did kind of with the bridge, in which we went out and we got all these grants, but then the debate was this wasn't funded to match any part of it. And so, you know, if we have that there and we allow the city to begin using it, they can start looking for some bigger grants.
Can these funds be in that capital projects without specifically being earmarked just for sidewalk replacement? So that you know that there's some money there, and if you were to go out and get a grant, you know you've got the money that you can match with.
I see what you're saying.
The money's there, but if there's something else that money has to be used for, then it can be used for something else. I still think we need to look for grants for this type of stuff, especially when you're dealing with anything that's ADA compliant, because you know there's grants out there, and I know we're talking safe routes to school, but we're also talking new school right now too. So where is our safe route to school going to be? Because where is our potential new school going to be? So, I mean, that's something else we need to start considering. It might be something where if they do get a new grade school passed and it's in a complete different area, then where are these safe routes to school going to go?
That's true. I see a little bit of, around all of those schools though, they're heavily trafficked areas one way or the other. If you walk on those sidewalks or run on those sidewalks, I run in the street. Because it's just easier not to break my ankle because one goes up and one goes down. And if you're any sort of mobility impaired, if you're blind or you're seeing impaired.
And then I guess where does it end?
I mean, I don't think I think we could maybe pare down that 50,000 a bit, but I'd like to see the city start being able to use the sidewalk fund, because if the citizens aren't going to use it, the city should go out there and say, look, we're doing the safe routes to school, let's replace those 2 panels, and look, if you're not, and the citizen comes down a month later and says, I'd like to replace this, we'll just say, hey, you know, we use those funds.
I mean, and if we keep that funding where it's been, and there haven't been many citizens using it, then we still have those funds there without,
I would like to see it go a little, because it's at 20,000 now. 20,000 isn't a whole lot of sidewalk. It's probably not a block. Is that about right? Maybe 2 blocks?
It should go farther than that.
What?
You know, you're talking about grants, something you need to remember, this Safe Routes to School grant that we've got right now, with all the federal stipulations and the things that we're jumping through and the engineering design and things like that, we could have done probably twice the project and hit the federal guidelines as far as, or the ADA guidelines, and spent the amount of money we're spending and got twice the product because of all the hoops we have to jump through for the grant. So sometimes the grants are good, it just depends on what, but this federal Safe Routes to School grant,
You would suggest more like a MOPAC 2 then?
Do what?
You'd suggest maybe looking for grants to get like MOPAC 2, finish that MOPAC trails,
you know, a
and
bigger project like that, it's worth it.
in which you got 8 to 10 feet wide sidewalks that are cutting through town.
But something like this, we're piecemeal on a lot of stuff that is just, to me, it's a nightmare. But, you know,
What can be done with, well, let's hear what the council has to say.
Yeah, one thing that comes to mind is if you have it all in one budget line, say the city uses all of it, somebody happens to want to replace their sidewalk, now they can't because the city's using it. I'd maybe like to see that separated. Not saying I don't want to fund it, because I know we need new sidewalks, but maybe we don't put as much in the resident sidewalk replacement. Maybe reduce it to 5,000 that's not being used, and use maybe that extra, or reduce the city replace sidewalks.
so it is 2 separate funds.
Yeah, I'd like to see it as 2 separate funds, but I would like to see money put in for these sidewalks.
And I would like to see this fund be made more public so the general public's got knowledge of it. I guarantee you probably 3/4 of the citizens of Iola's never heard of this.
Well, and I would say that too, but we've discussed this before at council meetings, and it's been in the newspaper before, because we said that same thing before when it hasn't been being used, and we talked about cutting it, and it was something that we made sure was publicized so that people did know about it, so they could take advantage of it. It's still,
I think at one time this fund was like $35,000, and the most we're using is 12. I think some of the biggest projects that have been done have actually been done at the park, to clear up some of the muddy areas at the park, which is either through school property or through our own property. But I know the biggest projects I think have gone through.
Yeah, the Bolas has used it this year for their project. So that number for 18 will be higher than 16 and 17, but it's not going to get anywhere close to the 20,000 now, unless we get a rush here at the end of the year.
Well, I think at one point, didn't we even take some of that funding and put it to the demo funding?
I think that's where
how
some of it went.
We flipped some of that around because we had more money that we needed to spend on demoing, and not enough people were taking advantage of the sidewalk.
How does council feel about 10 and 30? I'm trying to come down off that 50. I know you think 50 is too much. That leaves 10 for citizens, whether or not they use it, and that leaves 30 for the city to say, look, when this is coming through. I'd like that number higher still, but I think that's doable. It's literally roughly
Well, and then I would say, when you get toward the end of the year and nobody's used anything out of that 10, then that goes to the city.
okay.
You have
Fine,
like
but
the
I was gonna
first,
say, is the 10 even necessary? I mean, at this point, it sounds like it's utilized.
I mean, I don't know,
I would
5?
have 10 there, just in case.
Well, I'm
Just in
okay with
case,
the 10,
and
but if
then-
we get to the end of the year and we haven't,
Yeah,
and it hasn't been utilized, then
when it's
kick it
getting
back.
toward, you know, I mean, you can only lay sidewalk probably for so long into the year, and then it's gonna get too cold and you can't lay the cement anyway. So at that point, if nobody's taking
I'd
advantage
be
of
okay
it,
as
then it
long as
rolls
we kicked it
over.
back then if it's not.
So if we get to the end of the year, and we have another project, and we've used our allotment, the city's allotment, we can say, okay, hey, it's September, end of September, we haven't heard, we're at $5,000, we're gonna use for 5,000.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
I'd agree with you guys on that, John.
Are we okay with that? Okay.
We can do that, let's do that, split that out.
And you can draft some rules on the certain date if you'd like, that we can come up with at a later date, because that's all 2019. If we want to say September 15th, we can come up with those rules and let the public know, hey, if you don't use it by X date or Y date, the city's going to use it, go fix up the sidewalk.
Yeah, it's only available until
Blank
this
date.
date.
Yeah.
And then after that, it's not available again until the new budget year.
Okay.
Yep.
Also, could we maybe put something, what are we going to utilize this for around like schools, churches, businesses, or are we going to have somebody come up and say, you replace this sidewalk for me? Because I just don't have-"
I think it needs to be public areas, not.
I'm thinking more walking area, high traffic, kind of like, we did with state, that it's a high traffic area. High traffic areas that maybe are dangerous if you get into the street, i.e. along, we can actually talk about that and kind of give staff some direction on what we want. There's no reason to give them direction if they don't have the funds, kind of, again, chicken or egg. I'm envisioning, if you ever try to walk along or run along 54, going basically from Kentucky to Jefferson, it gets pretty treacherous on a couple of those spots.
So Greg, I got a question for you on that. I just said there, thank you. A number of years ago, the city come down at my house and dug out the water meter, and there's about a 6 foot of the curbing that is yet to be replaced. So if I was to dig that out or submit the paperwork, if I was to dig that out and frame that up myself, I could turn in the paperwork and they would pay for the concrete? So just next to the road?
As far as curbing goes, we would not okay you doing the curbing. Nothing against you, Eugene, but we want the curbing done right. So we would ask you as a homeowner to have a contractor do that on the curbing. The program is set up to basically pay the homeowner for the cost of the cement. The curbing is figured up, I believe it's $6.25 a linear foot, which is about how much cement goes into a running foot of curbing. Sidewalks done in square footage, your sidewalk has to be 4 foot wide, and if you have a property that's 100 foot long, it's going to, 4 times 100, 400 times $1.75 a square foot is how much the city's going to pay you, which should cover the cost of the cement. Whether you do it yourself or have a contractor, that's up to you. There's certain requirements on the sidewalk. We did expand it a year and a half ago to include the curbing. Nobody has yet taken advantage of it. I take that back. We had one this summer taking advantage of that. That's the first one since we changed that program to take advantage of it on the curbing side.
Yeah, that kind of opens up a can of worms for me. If you ever drove on the south side of town, about 50% of the streets just don't have curbs. So
Yeah.
this is something maybe we could utilize to put curbing on the south side of town too. I know it's an issue. I've seen not a whole lot of rain. It funnels off the road into the yards because of no curbing. So
If it makes you feeling better, Mayor's house doesn't have a curb either, so. It's nothing personal.
Thank you, Greg. I was just wondering about that because I've been wanting to get that curbing in front of my house fixed for years.
Sid, is there anything else?
I think that kind of catches us up with everything except for the water fund. I probably need to look at that online. So basically, I put together these 2 different scenarios. One shows scenario 1 shows what we planned on doing. Basically, no general fund transfer this in 2019, and that we paid that water bond out of the water plant payment out of capital projects, so it doesn't show up in 18 on here. The only difference between this one and the scenario 2 is that I have that general fund transfer in 2019 in scenario 2. And it kind of shows that, and what I try to do is get that bottom line, which is the actual reserve, to kind of mirror each other. It's kind of hard to do because if you do a large increase in 19 versus a smaller one, between scenario 1 and 2, it's going to accumulate more over the years because you've done a bigger one early on. So I was trying to get those numbers to mirror up, and they're at the end of 2026, they're about $16,000 off. So I feel like that kind of gives you what it would take. So if we didn't do what we planned on doing, which we kind of decided that on the general fund side, it would take about a 20% rate increase in 19, and then another at least a 6% in 2020 to get that same level. What we're looking at now, with what we've decided to do with the general fund, is a 15% January 1 and like a 10% January 1 of 2020.
Now, if we lower that, that's with restoring the transfer from the general fund?
Yes.
Can you give us some numbers on what that would look at, or maybe half that general fund or zero general fund? So what would it look at if we did only 100,000 out of the general fund on 2020 increase? And what would it look like with zero general fund? And then we just, we want to talk about tough cuts, but those will be some tough ones, but you know what, just so that council can see those.
Just a second.
And again, we'll probably have to have a full council to do this full discussion. Yeah. Before January 1.
So if you look behind you, sorry, our setup here isn't real great. If we take this out of here, make that 100,000.
Because we've already done 2019, we're saying it's coming out, we're not doing that.
We're not going to do it.
Right. We're going to eat that in the general fund.
Let me try to do this.
But again, that's only 10 of them. So long out there. We're losing the still on this one.
Okay, so that's, and if you want me to carry that out, make sure I do that. I mean, it makes a pretty good impact because you're saving another $100,000 every year, and you really start to build. So you could cut this down to potentially, actually, you may want to leave that where it's at, but cut this down to see what 5% does. Yes, it has, that's all calculated in here, that in 2021, we'd start another $50,000 towards paying off the capital projects fund. And at the end of, in 2026, then we'd have $300 and some odd thousand left of that. We'd make a bulk payment. We'd still end up with about $1.4 million, which is, or $1,040,000, which is pretty close to what I had in there before.
But again, that comes with $100,000 worth of cuts to general fund.
Yeah, ongoing.
Permanent.
Yeah.
I'm just kind of letting council and letting public see, you know, these, giving people options at least.
And understand that this again does not address the ongoing need in the CIP, because what we have technically in the budget, which if we're gonna kind of go this route, I'll change 2020 number. But we have 500,000, 400,000 in this line item going out into the future.
And that's for things like pipe repair, replacing
Correct.
lifts and all sorts of pump stations, painting.
Yep. And that's where I guess, from a management standpoint, I would be comfortable with this 150 and 100,000. I think we can push projects out. That gets us the information from our master plan to really, so next year when we're planning this, we really know, here's what we want to spend in the CIP. And then do we need to make further rate adjustments for that?
Yeah, I just looking at this, first off, I think I really like reducing the transfer from the water. That, I think, opens the door for us to look at the other cuts we're talking about. We talk about water, you can't look at anything from there. That way, if we make a cut, say, street and alley equipment, you can start transferring more money from street and alley to the
Basically just transferring less from water to general
Yeah,
fund.
we realize $100,000 reduction is over 3 mils difference in our general fund. I mean, each mill for us is about 30,000, so if we cut out 100,000, we're cutting over 3 mils from that funding. Now, granted, that doesn't mean that we want to raise ourselves 3 mils, but I'm just kind of trying to give in perspective of what that $100,000 does for the general fund.
It's gonna be a tough, like, to find 100,000 in general fund, it's gonna be basically a permanent cut. You're looking at, 5 mosquito sprayers every year. And we had some contention, and mosquitoes has been pretty contentious for 20,000. You're looking at some big, significant, substantial cuts to services. I just wanted to get these numbers out here to show, like, okay, if you want to lower that second year down from 10% to 5%, the 100,000, that lowers 100,000. If you don't want it at all, again, to make 0 transfers, I don't see how we're going to cut those, but you still have to raise 15% just to get this fund back into where you're not selling water for less than, because that's with 0 transfers, 15%, you still, or is needed so that you're not selling water for less than it costs to produce.
Let's meet we went from 10 down to 5, let's meet in the middle, let's go, between the 5 and the 10, and let's go 8% and see what it looks like.
So do this 8.
Yeah, do that 8. I mean, meet the middle there.
Well, and then raise this up a little bit. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Let's see.
I'm imagining you can go 150 on that if you're halfway between. If you're halfway between 10 and 8, I imagine you can go 150.
Yeah. Maybe we go. That'd be about where we were at what I had in there before. So if you went 15 and 8 rather than 15 and 10, you would then reduce your general fund transfer by $35,000 each year. That'd be a little over 1 mil.
This is more for FYI, I take it today,
Well,
since
and part of it is I kind of, last year we didn't necessarily do it with the electric fund, so we don't have to do that. But it'd be nice to maybe put in that potential revenue increase as part of the budget, knowing that that's something we're probably going to do. Or I could just leave it out of the water budget. Because right now, bring the water budget up. kind of show, I'm pretty sure this shows the same thing. I've got this kind of extended out with 15 actuals in there too. But this does not show the impact of that. It has the loan payment still in there. If I, just as a, so this is actually what, kind of the budget as proposed. This other one is more as a worksheet for the rate purposes. So I think I took the loan payment out. So right now, without any revenue increase, we're talking $197,000 short for next year. Because we made that loan payment this year, we're going to build some reserve. We would just eat it pretty much the next year. And if you look back here, we're 197 short. If we do the increase of 15,000, we generate an extra 277. So that's where we end up, where we'd actually make $79,000 next year if we do the 15.
And that's basically just so that we don't go into the black every time we pay, or we don't go into the
Right.
red every time we pay our loan of 626, almost exactly, and plus another 50. So we'll still dip down there for a portion of time.
Yeah. Yeah.
But remember, it's
But by the end of the year, we should be
back to where we need.
Yeah.
On 2026.
And you got a 20-year-old facility that needs.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if you push back pipe projects, you'll need to start doing those, so.
You know, I've talked to a lot of citizens even since we decided not to do anything at this time. You know, a lot of citizens tell me that they know we need to do something. They don't want the higher rates, but they're tired of people saying, well, we got a new facility out there and it's what? Going on 20 years old?
14 years old.
14 years old? You know, it's not new anymore. It's just like a new car you buy and you got it 14 years and you gotta start doing maintenance on it. It starts breaking down.
It's already been in the shop too.
It's only
Sid, is there anything else you want out of this?
I think that what I will do, just as a matter of budget, is we'll make this adjustment and we'll show it like this. We won't show the increase in revenue because we don't know that we have that yet.
Don't know that we have that yet.
And so it'll be reflective. You know, we'll be eating into reserve that we've created this year. That'll work for the budget.
Yeah.
Okay.
We do a rate increase.
Okay. Okay. I think then we've got good enough direction to get things going and published for the next meetings.
Okay. We good on budget?
I think so.
Council and administrator reports. Why don't we just start with good old Mike today? I don't even know, we all moving seats and we're in a different building. Lost and I'm scared now, right?
I went to the park. I was thinking it was there.
Nancy,
I don't have anything.
Mark, Eugene.
Hey, let's get ready to enjoy the Iola County Fair.
Stay safe, stay hydrated out there. It's a little bit of a cooler week, but it's hot out if you're outside for any point in time. Remember as well with your pets, saw some vets forwarding some things. Vets are getting a lot of heat stroke, or pets are getting a lot of heat stroke. Put your pets inside. Sid?
I just wanted to kind of let council know that the League of Kansas Municipalities, they're having their annual conference October 6th through 8th. It's going to be in Topeka. You can kind of go to their website and see some of the information that they're going to have there. If you're interested in going, let me know so we can get you registered and all that.
What's the dates?
October 6th through 8th. But that's a,
The Friday, Saturday, Sunday, or?
The 6th is a Saturday,
Yeah.
Saturday, Sunday, Monday.
yeah,
Yeah, do it.
they do kind of an odd one.
Okay.
But, yeah, let me know. Rooms go pretty quick typically, so.
I'll let you, I'll let you know when I get back.
I'd be interested in going. I went to them last time, got a lot of good information out of that municipality meeting.
That's pretty much all I got.
Gene, you got something for me?
I would make a motion that we adjourn for the evening.
Second that.
There's a motion and a second to adjourn. All those in favor, please show a voting sign. Opposed, same sign. Motion passes.
Aaron's not here to vote.